Welcome back to another episode of Josh Does Movies Review. And if you can't tell already, by the title of the video, by the picture right next to me, by the little hand motions I just did, I am here to review The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, or as I've been calling it to all my friends and family and everybody I know, the Nick Cage movie. Um, this movie is a Lionsgate, I believe, Lionsgate movie that has Nicolas Cage playing a fictional. It is Lionsgate. I was right. A fictional version of himself, um, as a somewhat struggling movie star who can't find the balance between his passion for work and film and being a father and potentially a husband to the people that he's loved in his life. Um, in this journey, going through, he takes up an offer by Javi Gutierrez, who's played by Pedro Pascal, to be for for $1 million for a birthday appearance. Um, and that's kind of the plot of how this movie starts as he gets going towards the um, Javi's area. He runs into Tiffany Haddish, who plays Vivian, a CIA agent, and the movie takes has a side story where the CIA are investigating Pedro Pascal's Javi's character for potentially being the head of a cartel. Now, I tried my best there to describe the basic plot of the movie. That way, you don't go in and kind of get surprised, like I did a little bit here. See, I knew about the CIA agent stuff, but the whole Nick Cage struggling personally in life and an element of his family, which not really a spoiler. This is something that begins at the very beginning of the movie. It's something that I definitely hid from the trailers because they've had such gold here in so many other places. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is simply put a great buddy comedy where we have Pedro Pascal and Nicolas Cage playing these two characters who are almost perfectly made for one another. Um, Nicolas Cage does all of his little euphemisms, very referential to other movies. He takes the kind of meme style that people make of him in all the movies that he's been in, and he puts it up to like about 100 throughout the movie here. Obviously, this is a very fictionalized version of Nicolas Cage. I have to imagine him as a person in real life. Isn't this over the top, gravelly voice? Isn't this person who is very neglectful of his family? In fact, he's having a daughter here coming fall. It was just actually announced publicly this week, and so he's clearly not the self-absorbed, narcissistic a-hole that it was presented to in the very beginning of this movie. But I have to give him credit in how he's able to act and really play up those stereotypes in a very comedic way. We're not laughing at Nick Cage because he's a joke. We're laughing at what he's presenting in this movie, in a comedic way that they're wanting us to laugh, with him in a way, with how he's portraying his uh, kind of the general meme population thought of him, the joke population thought of Nick Cage. Um, his chemistry with Pedro Pascal, who is quickly becoming, if you haven't already, he's quickly becoming one of the gems of Hollywood movies nowadays, ranging from very serious roles like The Mandalorian to this role here, where he plays an amazing um, character who connects to Nicolas Cage, who you relate to as a viewer, who is funny and charming and also innocent and naive all at the same time, um, as Javi. And the movie is just golden whenever it's being focused on the Cage Javi relationship and bromance. Like this is some serious bromance vibes in a lot of ways. Um, you have Javi trying to impress Nick Cage, who he obviously idolizes. There's he wants to write a film, that he wants Nick Cage to read the manuscript of. Nick Cage is kind of not too into that per se. He's struggling with his own self ego stuff throughout the movie But without getting too much into spoilers, I have to say what the movie is running on a full 10 out of 10 blast when Javi and Nick Cage are together, whenever Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage, and their chemistry, bromance is the center point of the film. Especially there's two sequences that are just perfectly done for comedic sense, and the acting between the two and the chemistry between the two just blow off the screen. And my theater, which was pretty full tonight, was doing nothing but laughing. Um, and if you're somebody who is looking for a good comedy, buddy comedy like that, this is a movie you're gonna really enjoy. Um, but there's some downsides to this movie overall. Um, the first is some thrown together storylines that I don't think they. It's one of these things where they even commented on this meta, in a meta like situation in the movie in a different way about adding a hook or a storyline to try and draw in an audience in different ways. But in this movie, almost a hook they tried having in there for you, like from the beginning, to make you care, I guess, more about Nicolas Cage the person and his growth, is this family dynamic that in the very first like 15 minutes of the movie, I was cringing and not in a good way. It felt very forced in there, and it was something that I don't think this movie truly needed in some ways. I think later on the family can play an important part in different ways, but if you could write them out, I think this movie would have worked perfectly fine and served the same type of comedic gold and narrative gold throughout the whole entire way. And I think the other reason why this felt so jarring is because you also have included the CIA plot where Nick Cage is having to work with the CIA to spy on Javi. And while there's some great gags that happen throughout the movie with that, again, it feels like some type of plot where you want Nick Cage to be on this emotional journey where he's kind of coming to himself and self realization and self respect in a lot of ways. But you're also undercutting the both storylines with a different dynamic in a way that I thought felt very. Neither one was ever given the opportunity to pick up a secondary story time length that I could buy into it enough, and I feel like it was strong enough to be included in the movie. So it definitely has two major weak points with these side stories. Um, Mainly just because they had to cut them up both kind of equally. They didn't have much of a presence in the film that really helped move the normal story narrative along. Um, that's not to say I didn't really enjoy this movie. I did. Much of this movie is really about Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal playing their characters in this great chemistry, having a great time. Really, really, really connecting and pushing boundaries with stereotyping typing people off the bat, and really showing the importance of what it means to have somebody out there that believes in you, like Javi believes in Nicolas Cage, the person, not the actor, just the person. And for that, the movie was an amazing time. I had a blast at the movie. It was tons and tons of people there. Um, Overall, really good laughs. General sense of the audience was very well received. As far as my recommendations for this movie, I think if you're looking for, like I said, a buddy comedy, something that's definitely going to be R-rated for a little bit of violence, a little bit of language, but nothing really else. There's no nudity. There's no sexual scenes in that type of way. So if you're okay with your teenager and you're an adult that wants to go see a comedy like this, I highly recommend it. It's very enjoyable. It was a great time at the theater. Again, the story felt pretty original per se. I do think some of the family dynamics and the CIA dynamics tacked on makes it kind of feel a little less original, but I think it's a movie that you're going to enjoy in that way. If you're not looking for a comedy, if you're looking for a movie that's taking itself a little seriously in some type of a way, if you aren't a fan of the meta jokes, if you're not a fan of Nick Cage, this movie's not going to be for you, and that's okay. But I think if you like Nick Cage and you like his work, and you are looking for more of that meta jokey commentary that has a really good really has an amazing relationship between two characters on screen. I truly think this is a movie you're going to want to see, whether it's in theaters or when it comes out the streaming, because it was it really was a very very pleasant movie to see, and one that I am happy I finally got out to go and see. It finally came in theaters. The previews for it have been phenomenal. I definitely think it lives up to that, and they definitely the gags and the trailers play funnier in the movie, and there's more stuff going on that wasn't in the couple trailers they released that were also incredibly funny and incredibly joyful in the movie. Now, the question now lands though is how am I going to put this in my top 10 lists of the year? Coming off of the crimes of not the crimes of Grindelwald, the secrets of Dumbledore, we haven't had we've had some middling results recently. We've had some positive results with X, and especially Everything Everywhere All at Once as two very good movies I enjoyed. We've had Morbius and we've had Dumbledore that have been very mediocre at best. Um, so where are we going to with this review, and where are we going to rate it at? I can say, moving out of my top 10 now is Death on the Nile. As we're getting more and more movies on, some of these middle of the pack movies that I enjoyed a bit, but I wouldn't call them great or things I might strongly recommend to people. They're now finding themselves off this top 10 list, which excites me because I'm finally getting a top 10 list that I think we're getting some quality content on. Um, but I ended up putting this movie as my fourth movie of the year. Again, it was very, very close to overtaking the Batman, but I think the Batman's plot and story works overall better as a film. I think because the CIA agent and the family parts were so undercut and felt very middling to not important in the movie, but were also very important at the same time, as well as a comment through the movie when they're writing this, whenever Nick Cage and Javi are working together on a screenplay about writing in something to hook an audience. Um, Again, it felt like it wasn't like that joke was worked well in that budding you know bromance per se and friendship that they had, but it makes you look at this movie and you're like, well, I don't think you're intentionally trying to make the joke about yourself, because the effort they put into those parts seem very overdone. So um, that's why it's below the Batman. I still enjoyed this quite a lot. I think anything in my top eight right now are movies I really strongly recommend people go out and see. If you haven't seen them yet, whether it's on streaming or in theaters. I know all eight of them are extremely solid movies that I really, really enjoyed. Um, but yeah, that's the Nicolas Cage movie review. Fun fact that, in case people might not know, but Nicolas Cage is the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola. You might recognize that name because he is the director of the Godfather series and more. Um, so it's always interesting to know that Nick Cage kind of comes from a very, very, a very family that is involved in Hollywood, and he's lived up, I think, to that name. But he chose to go with a different name, so he didn't get himself cast just because he had the last name of a famous director. Um, Later this weekend, I'm gonna go see The Northman, and I'm probably gonna see The Bad Guys. I'm interested to see how the box office goes this weekend. We have the first time in a good long while three movies that all can contend for that top spot, that are all seemingly quality films, getting above 80% or something with Rotten Tomato scores. And from what I've heard from audiences, all pretty well received. So I'm interested to get these three movies in and out and review wise this weekend. Let me know, if you've seen any of them or you're looking forward to any of those reviews. Also, let me know, have you seen this movie, and if you did, what did you think about it? Do you like Nick Cage? Are you a Nick Cage fan? Do you think he is kind of pushing himself back into the mainstream in a very high profile way? Um, if you like if you want to, see more reviews, I have plenty of other reviews on here. On the site, I've been doing this whole year so far. Please leave a subscription if you're interested in this type of video. I'm going to be coming out with more as we go. We got a lot of great movies coming out, a lot of great reviews needing to come. I'm going to add in some TV show reviews once seasons are over. I've been watching Moon Knight, and we have 2 more weeks of that, and I'll probably put a review out of that. But yeah, I'm putting out a lot of stuff on this channel here soon. So if you're liking what you're seeing, please feel free to leave a like on this video and subscribe. And until next time, enjoy the weather where you're at. Have an excellent day, have an excellent evening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.